Exposed. My daughter-in-law's betrayal left me at sea, but what I discovered changed everything. The sun dipped low behind the old barn, casting a golden hue over the small Midwestern town. A picture-perfect postcard seemed nestled among rolling fields. Sarah stood outside her modest garage, worn but well-loved, the scent of oil and gasoline mingling with the earthy aroma of fresh-cut grass. She took a deep breath, heart racing. Today marked her son Jake's return after years away, and for the first time in too long, hope fluttered in her chest. Could her little boy, now a man, finally bridge the distance that had grown between them? As she tightened her grease-stained cap and inspected the gray Chevy truck in her driveway, memories washed over her. Uniforms, laughter, building a home with her late husband, each moment woven into the very walls of the garage. She had poured everything into this place, her sanctuary, and a testament to their love. But now that joy felt precarious, as uncertain as the clouds gathering in the evening sky. When Jake arrived with his new wife, Emily, the air filled with warmth and smiles, yet a chill crept in. Emily's polished demeanor radiated confidence, but a shadow of something else lingered beneath her surface. Whispers of betrayals flickered in Sarah's mind as she introduced herself, the warm embrace of family crumbling under the weight of suspicion. "Mom, let us take a walk down to the diner," Jake suggested, his eyes bright with nostalgia. But Emily's gaze shifted, the hint of a smirk playing on her lips as she surveyed the garage. "Honey, why don't we look at some homes instead? Surely this old place takes up too much of your mom's time," she said, casual yet loaded. Sarah's heart sank. Was Emily's mission to push her out, like an unwelcome guest at a family gathering? As the days unfolded, tension thickened like molasses in the warm summer air. Sarah overheard bits of conversations, Emily voicing her disdain for the garage as an eyesore and hinting at better investments. Her pulse quickened. The very place that had defined her family's legacy was now seen as a liability. Betrayal welled inside her like a storm. It was confusing, dizzying. She felt torn between loyalty to her son and standing firm for herself and her husband's memory. A critical community fundraiser approached, a chance to support local veterans, many of whom had been Sarah's comrades. But when Emily unraveled the plans with a sabotaging hand, claiming they needed to allocate funds elsewhere, Sarah's anger flared. The confrontation morphed into a battle of wills, loyalty torn asunder. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As whispers of fear swept through the town, Sarah faced her most profound dilemma: protect her family or rally for the community she loved. Each option felt like walking a tightrope. The moment of impact crackled when, right in the middle of the fundraiser, a local loved one collapsed, a vital member of their community. As sirens wailed in the distance, Sarah and Emily found themselves thrust together, grappling not only with the crisis unfolding, but also with each other's pain. In the chaos, Sarah felt the walls closing in. Could they muster the courage to face their fears, their uncharted territory of family loyalty? Would they remain strangers? Or could they begin healing the rift that threatened to tear them apart? Time froze around them, leaving only the question: could forgiveness blossom amidst the ruins of trust? Through uncertainty, the essence of family lingered, waiting for Sarah to take the next step forward. The sirens echoed louder as the volunteer paramedics rushed into the frenzy of the fundraiser. Sarah's heart raced with each step, pounding in her chest as she tried to push through the crowd. Panic washed over her, and she felt a twinge of guilt. Was she too wrapped up in her battle with Emily to notice those in need? Jake was already at the scene, his face pale, eyes wide with worry. He knelt beside their neighbor, Mr. Thompson, whose sunken cheeks and labored breath sent waves of dread surging through Sarah. Emily stood off to the side, her expression unreadable, a mask of concern that didn't quite touch her eyes. The moment felt fractured, with time suspended, as if the world had narrowed to this very point. Is he going to be okay? Jake's voice trembled, and the sheer vulnerability in his tone brought tears to Sarah's eyes. Before she could step toward him, Emily moved ahead, kneeling beside her husband, the glimmer of compassion and urgency now overshadowing her previous aloofness. "Stay back, everyone," one of the paramedics shouted, breaking the spell of chaos. As if snapped from a trance, Sarah stepped close to Jake, the space between them desperate for reconnection. "He is strong. He'll pull through," she whispered, squeezing Jake's hand tightly. Relief mingled with fear. As the paramedics worked, Emily helped redirect the crowd, her focus clearly on Jake. Watching them, something shifted within Sarah. The heat of anger was slowly dissipating, replaced by something softer and understanding that maybe this moment, terrifying as it was, could change everything. But then there was Mr. Thompson's wife, Martha, tears flowing like rivers. She clutched a small vial of pills, her voice cracking as she explained what had happened. The community had gathered to honor veterans, but underneath, unspoken anxieties roiled amongst them, the weight of unhealed wounds threatening to engulf them. The paramedics finally lifted Mr. Thompson onto a stretcher, and the urgency of the moment intensified, reality crashing down like a tidal wave. Sarah turned back to Emily, so close now, their eyes locking for a brief moment. Two women pulled into the tumult of motherhood, marriage and mutual grief. Maybe we can do this together," Sarah found herself saying, her voice a mix of hesitation and hope. She wrestled with every word, balancing on a tightrope, unsure if it was the right choice. There was a brief flicker of surprise in Emily's eyes, a hint that perhaps she too felt the shift. "I think we need each other right now," Emily replied slowly, her tone softer than Sarah had ever heard. The air grew thick with unvoiced emotions swirling between them: loyalty, disappointment, aspirations caught in a tight embrace of vulnerability. But it was a start, a small flame flickering amidst the storm. As the sirens faded into the distance, leaving behind echoes of urgent whispers, Sarah realized they might have a chance. Both women stood on the precipice of something monumental, their shared responsibilities drawing them into the heart of their community's needs. Would acknowledgement of their shared burdens be the first step toward mending their fractured relationship? Or was this just a fragile illusion? With uncertainty lingering in the crisp evening air, Sarah turned to stare into the twilight sky, making a silent vow. They had a choice to make, and no matter how daunting it appeared, they had to find the strength to face it together. Jake approached, looking between them, clearly questioning. "What are you two talking about?" In that moment, with tension still palpable, Sarah knew everything hung in the balance. Would they fight the shadows that threatened their bond? Or would they allow the dusk to encapsulate them? As the clouds thickened, Sarah felt a familiar weight settle over her heart, a mixture of hope and dread. What would the dawn bring? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the park. It was a stark reminder of how quickly light could fade, just as they had nearly let their connection slip into darkness. Sarah looked around at the gathering crowd. The atmosphere was thick, filled with whispers and hushed murmurs about Mr. Thompson. Yet in that moment, all Sarah could focus on was Emily's eyes. The hardness was gone, replaced with something she had missed. "I know this is overwhelming," Emily finally said, her voice steady but warm, "but we have to be strong for them." Her nod towards Mr. Thompson's wife held a meaning deeper than just sympathy. Jake stood silently, the weight of worry etched on his face as he processed their exchange. "You think we should help them? The Thompsons?" "Yes," Sarah said, surprising herself at how assured she felt. "They need people. Not just now, but when the dust settles too." "Right." Jake's gaze softened, his fear shifting into a resolve. "We should organize meals, check in on them, anything." But still Emily hesitated. "And what about us? What about our issues?" she asked, her breath catching slightly. The tension that had marred their interactions hung still in the air. Sarah felt that familiar pang in her heart, the memories of their quarrels replaying like old film. But she couldn't allow that past anger to fester in her mind any longer. "We're going to face them. Together. It's the only way." The strength of her words surprised even her. Jake looked at both women, sensing the shift for the first time. "I know this isn't easy, but maybe it's time our families learned the true meaning of community of support." Emily nodded slowly, drawing in a deep breath as if readying herself for a leap. "Think you're right. I want to be part of this. Maybe we can bring something beautiful from all this chaos." And just like that, amidst the echoes of sirens and the distant sobs of Martha, their fragile bond began to take shape. It wouldn't erase their individual challenges, but it was something. Sarah felt a fragile hope bloom amidst their pain. As they stood together, a collective sense of purpose began to emanate from the trio. Neighbors began approaching, asking what they could do to help, expressing concern for the Thompsons. Renewal sprang forth in small conversations, creating a surge of community around a once daunting darkness. Yet, just as they were starting to feel that they were on the right path, Martha weaved through the crowd. The anguish was still painted across her tear-streaked face, but she had something in her hands. It's about Mr. Thompson," she called out, her voice breaking. The three of them exchanged nervous glances, the air thickening with anxiety. "What is it, Martha?" Sarah asked, trying to steady her own heart which began to race at the unknown. With trembling fingers, Martha opened her hand to reveal a small envelope. "He left this and I don't know what to do." The silence that followed felt like a countdown. What secret did the envelope hold? Would it unravel the fragile bond they had just begun to weave? Or was it an invitation for further connection amidst shared sorrow? Nobody dared to breathe as the moment hung in the air, heavy with unanswered questions. Martha's hand shook as she held the envelope out towards them, her eyes wide and pleading. "I thought maybe someone should see it," she said, her voice trembling. Emily reached out first, taking the envelope gingerly. The paper felt brittle under her fingers, and she could hear the faint rustling of something inside. "What do you think it is?" she asked, glancing at Sarah and Jake. "Just open it," Jake urged, his voice soft but firm. The gravity of the moment pressed down on them, binding them together in concern and curiosity. With a sharp breath, Emily tore the envelope open, her heart racing. Inside was a folded piece of paper, its edges worn and creased. She unfolded it carefully, stealing glances at Martha, who stood watching, pained but hopeful. "Dear Martha," she read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you're reading this, it means I've left you with more than just my love. I have been keeping secrets from you. Secrets I thought would spare you pain." Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. This wasn't just a letter, it was a confession. Tension filled the air as Emily continued, her brows furrowing at the complexity of the words. "You deserve to know the truth about why I was so distant," Emily faltered, glancing at Martha, who was standing tense and silent. "Should I keep going?" Martha nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears, urging her on. "As difficult as it is, I must confess that I have made choices that have hurt those I love." Each word came heavy with the weight of regret, echoing as Emily read. "The past few months were filled with choices I wish I could erase. I let my fears dictate my actions, pushing you away instead of reaching out." Silence loomed as Emily paused, the impact of those words sinking in. "Maybe this is what he wanted, a way to finally face the truth," Sarah whispered, her heart aching not just for Martha but for them all. Emily cleared her throat, her voice steadying. "He talks about wanting to reconcile, to make amends. He mentions planning something special for you, Martha, a trip, a moment meant just for you." Martha's breath hitched, and Sarah could see the flicker of hope mingled with the pain in her eyes. What was he planning? What did he mean? Martha asked, gripping her hands tightly, her voice wavering. Emily turned the paper, her gaze moving to the next lines. "And as for the darkness that has lingered in our lives, I want you to know it can change. I believe it. I hope you do too." Just then, a siren blared in the distance, punctuating the weight of the moment. The world around them felt far away, as if time had paused, allowing them to breathe in the possibilities. Jake leaned closer to Martha, his expression softening. "He wanted you to know there could be a way out of this darkness." Martha looked at him, a new determination filling her gaze. "I can't hide from this anymore. I have to confront what happened, what might still be ahead." "Yes," Sarah said, her voice firm. "You owe it to yourself, to him, and to your future." The energy shifted as they stood together, united by the weight of Mr. Thompson's words. But just as a sense of momentum began to build, a shadow fluttered across their little group. A figure emerged from the gathering crowd, pale and shaken. It was none other than Mr. Thompson's sister, holding her own envelope. Martha's heart raced again. What does she want? And with that, dread swept through Sarah and Emily. What other secrets lay waiting to unfold? And how might they change everything they thought they understood? Martha took a small step forward, uncertainty gnawing at her insides. The sight of Mr. Thompson's sister, Claire, was like a thunderclap in the silent space they occupied. Claire's eyes were wide, reflecting a mixture of fear and determination. She looked like someone who had carried a weight far too heavy for too long. Claire, Martha began, the name stumbling off her lips with a blend of familiarity and apprehension. I need to talk to you, Claire said urgently, glancing around as if to gauge the reactions of the others. It's about the letter and about my brother. Emily, Sarah, and Jake exchanged looks, unsure of what to make of this sudden interruption. Did Claire come to reassure them? Or did she carry more secrets that would exacerbate this already convoluted tale? What do you know? Martha asked, her voice steady but edged with an underlying tension. She felt the group behind her leaning into the moment, their collective breaths held tight. Claire shifted her weight, her hands trembling as they clutched an envelope, similar in appearance to the one they had just read. Please just let me explain. Martha nodded, giving Claire permission to continue. Claire took a deep breath. Sam, he didn't leave everything behind the way you think. He was working on something, a project that would change our family's life. I found out about it after she paused, swallowing hard. After he died. And I never knew how to tell you. Project? Martha echoed, confusion swirling like mist around her heart. What do you mean? There were investments, Martha. Plans for a company he wanted to start. He believed he could provide for his family in ways no one else could. Claire explained, her voice thick with emotion. But it wasn't just about money. He wanted to leave something meaningful, something that would bond us even after he was gone. What is in that letter? Jake spoke up, his voice breaking through the tension, sharp and clear. Claire tossed a glance at Emily and Sarah, who stepped back slightly, allowing Martha to absorb this information intimately. He didn't want to admit he was scared. Scared that he wouldn't be able to protect you from everything. It's why he distanced himself. Emily felt her heart race. So all of this was for Martha? Yes, Claire confirmed, her eyes filled with unshed tears. But it's not just about the past. I need help to finish what he started. You deserve to understand everything he worked for, and I can't do it alone. Martha's heart pounded. She felt a dangerous mix of hope and dread. Why now, Claire? Why bring this to me now? Because I couldn't keep hiding it. I thought exposing the truth would bring more pain. But if he wrote that letter, I know he was ready for you to know. The air shifted again. A heaviness hung in the atmosphere, each person feeling the weight of new revelations taking shape. The silence was almost deafening. It held a multitude of secrets still waiting to be uncovered. What kind of help do you need? Martha whispered, her voice fragile but resolute. Claire took a step closer, her pleading gaze penetrating. There are documents, plans. I need someone who believes in what he was trying to build. And I need someone who still believes in family. Martha felt a genuine tug at her heart. She just had to decide if she was ready to wade through these uncharted waters, to face potential heartbreak or healing. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, its last rays casting an amber glow on their faces, Martha took a deep breath. Okay, let us find out what he wanted to build together. But I need to know everything, Claire. No more secrets. Just as resolution settled in, the shadows of uncertainty loomed large with a single ringing thought. What if they uncovered something that changed everything, including the nature of their grief? And as the realization took hold of her, Claire's eyes flashed with something more. There's something else, something I haven't told you yet. There was a palpable tension in the air, almost as if the world had paused to listen, waiting for Claire to reveal her secret. Martha's heart raced. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Her stomach twisted, an echo of the unease she had carried since Sam's death. Claire, Martha urged, her voice barely above a whisper. What else? Claire hesitated, her fingers tightening around the envelope, her gaze flickering to the ground. It's about the investments. The project, it involves a lot more than just money. Sam was mixed up with people who, well, let us just say they weren't exactly above board. A chill prickled at Martha's nape and she took a step back. What do you mean? Was he involved in something illegal? No. He was trying to protect us. Protect you? Claire exclaimed, her voice rising in defense. He didn't want to drag anyone into it until he was sure. But there are contracts, partnerships, and I found something I don't think he meant for anyone to see long term. What kind of partnerships? Jake interjected, his voice steady but filled with concern. Martha noticed the tension in his shoulders. Jake always had a knack for sensing trouble. Claire took another deep breath, grappling with the information. He was working with a man named Victor Klein. He's involved in some questionable dealings, but Sam believed he could turn things around. I think he thought he could shepherd us into something good, but it spiraled. Martha felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her. Victor Klein? I've heard that name before. He's connected to some unsettling things. Yes, Claire finished for her, tears brimming in her eyes. I didn't want to believe it, but I started digging. Sam was protecting us from a danger we never even knew existed. And now I fear that if we don't do something, it could come back to haunt us. The implication hung heavy in the air. Martha grasped what Claire was saying. They weren't just cleaning up Sam's affairs. They might be caught up in a web of danger. What do we do? Sarah asked quietly, her voice trembling. First, we need to find those documents and plans. We have to make sure they're safe, Claire replied, her determination sharpening. Then we can decide how to confront Klein and whatever organization he is tied to. But we can't wait too long. If there's anything illegal, it might already be out there in the wrong hands. Martha felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was bigger than she had anticipated. Larger than her grief could contain. You really believe what he was trying to build could help us? Yes, but we need to be careful. We're treading in dangerous waters. And we don't know how deep they go. A shadow moved beside them, and the group stiffened. Jake was scanning the surroundings as if expecting trouble to materialize at any moment. What if Klein finds out we're digging? He asked, eyes narrowing in thought. What if he comes after us? Martha's chest tightened with dread. She glanced at her friends, their faces reflecting a blend of fear and resolve. We'll face it together. We owe it to Sam to finish what he started. But her voice trailed off, uncertainty creeping in. They were stepping into a world that could change everything: their lives, their trust in one another, and perhaps even the legacy of Sam. Let us do this, Claire said, her voice firm, but Martha could sense the crack in her resolve. They were walking into a storm, and there was no turning back. But as they began to formulate a plan, the night darkened and a foreboding thought settled with them. What if Sam's vision held secrets that were better left buried? In that moment, another shiver ran down Martha's spine at the thought of what they might uncover next. What if each step forward pulled them deeper into a reality they weren't prepared for? The air hung thick as they stood together, each lost in their own swirl of thoughts. The gravity of Claire's revelation weighed heavily on Martha's chest. Images of Sam flashed in her mind: his laughter, his dreams now tainted by shadows of deceit. Okay, first things first, Claire broke the silence, her voice cutting through the fog. We need to think of a safe place to look for whatever documents Sam had. His office, Jake suggested, glancing over his shoulder, still wary of unseen threats. Maybe. It's a start. But there could be more tucked away, Claire responded. I remember him talking about a storage locker. Something about important papers. He didn't want us to worry. The mention of the storage locker made Martha's heart race. Do you have the address? Yes. I think it's on a slip of paper in my car. Claire's determination was contagious, but Martha couldn't help the quickening pulse of fear in her veins. We should go tonight. The longer we wait, the greater chance Klein could catch wind of us. Are we really doing this? Sarah's voice shook slightly as she spoke, reflecting the uncertainty that had settled over all of them. We have to, Jake replied, his tone firm. For Sam. His words cut through the doubt lingering in the air, grounding the group again. Martha took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Let us move then. No turning back. Each word felt heavy with consequence, but they were a team. They just needed to stick together. As they hurried to Claire's car, Martha's mind churned with questions. What if they uncovered something dangerous? What if it led to more lies? They all piled in, the atmosphere electric with anticipation and apprehension. Claire gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. We stick to the plan. In and out. No detours. The drive felt like an eternity. The streets blurred, shadows creeping along with them as they navigated toward the storage facility. It was late, the moon casting eerie shadows that danced around them, reflecting their inner turmoil. When they finally arrived, the place looked as desolate as Martha felt inside. Rows of empty units stretched out before them, each one a little fortress of secrets. Where is it? Martha asked, scanning the numbers painted on the metallic doors. Number 302, Claire said, pulling up the map on her phone. It should be just around the corner. A sudden sound, a twinkle of metal against metal, made them all jump. Jake's eyes locked on the shadows lurking just beyond the fence. Did you hear that? Martha's stomach dropped. What if Klein's people are already here? Stay close, Claire instructed, her voice low and steady. We can't give up now. They crept toward the unit, tension thrumming in the air. Each step felt like they were inching closer to the dark heart of whatever lay ahead. Claire inserted the key into the lock, her hand trembling, and turned it gently. A click echoed in the stillness, sharp and resonant, slicing through the night. The door slid open, a heavy groan seeming to echo their collective anxiety. Inside, boxes stacked precariously revealed a life of plans and dreams Sam had built. But nestled within them could lie a truth meant to safeguard or ultimately destroy their future. Martha reached for the nearest box. What if this holds the answers we need or the consequences we fear? But as they began to dig through the clutter, a sliver of sunlight broke through the cracks of the night, illuminating a stark truth. The deeper they delved, the murkier their surroundings became. And just as Martha pulled out a folder marked Klein, a voice echoed from behind them, cutting through the silence. What are you doing here? The four friends turned, eyes wide with horror. They were no longer alone. The figure stepped closer, the shadows melting away to reveal a familiar face, but one tinged with the coldness of betrayal. It was Derek, Klein's right-hand man, his expression a mix of surprise and calculation. The air crackled with tension as they all instinctively took a step back, eyes darting between him and the unit filled with Sam's secrets. What are you doing here? Derek repeated, his voice dripping with a mix of disbelief and amusement. Martha's heart raced. There was no time to consider the implications. We were looking for Sam. You have to help us. The plea slipped from her lips, desperate and raw. Derek raised an eyebrow, his demeanor shifting slightly like a chameleon hiding its colors. Help you? Why would I do that? Because you know what Klein's capable of. If he finds out what Sam was mixed up in, it won't just be you and I who are at risk. It'll be all of us, Claire interjected, her voice steadier than she felt. Derek's gaze flickered to the open storage unit, the shadows creeping around them as if eavesdropping on their conversation. You're playing a dangerous game, he warned, but there was an edge of uncertainty behind his bravado. Martha took a breath, fuming with a mix of fear and anger. You don't care about Klein. You only care about yourself. This could be your chance to get out from under his thumb. The tension in the air exploded into silence. For a moment, it felt as if the world outside the storage unit stopped spinning. Would he turn them in? Help them? Or was he just toying with them for sport? Finally, Derek shrugged, a half-smile breaking through. You're right about one thing. Klein isn't the most forgiving employer. But he stepped back, the smile melting away into a frown. You need to know you'll be in a lot more danger than you realize. Martha and the others exchanged glances, the uncertainty gnawing at the edges of their resolve. We're willing to take that risk, Jake said, voice steady despite the fear that clouded their judgment. Derek sighed, clearly caught in a storm of conflicting interests. Fine. But we've got to move fast. They watched him as he turned, motioning them to follow. They stepped cautiously back into the shadows, unsure if they were stepping into safety or deeper into danger. As they walked, Derek glanced back over his shoulder, his expression draped in shadows. Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th. You want answers, you need to come prepared. Just then, a distant sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the lot like a whisper of impending doom. The group halted, adrenaline flaring through them. Klein's men? Go. Derek hissed. Now. They barely registered what they were doing as they sprinted toward the exit, urgency bearing down on their shoulders. What just happened? Sarah gasped, breathless as they stumbled into the safety of the streetlights outside. We have to regroup. We need a plan, Claire replied, her mind already racing ahead. Martha felt her heart pounding in her chest. This isn't over. We might have just stepped into a bigger trap. And as Derek faded into the night, leaving them standing there under the harsh glow of the street lamps, one question echoed in Martha's mind. What had they just set in motion, and could they really trust Derek? Their journey was only beginning, and all she could think was that the truth might cost them everything, including each other. The morning sun cut through the curtains as Martha rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of a restless night. Shadows danced across the walls, a reminder of the turmoil that had landed on her doorstep. 3 hours ago, they had been running for their lives, barely escaping the claws of danger. Did we really think we could trust him? Sarah's voice broke through the silence, trembling yet resolute. Martha opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Could they really trust Derek? After all, his loyalties had always been to Klein. Yet how could he stand idly by now, knowing the stakes? Jake paced the small living room, his eyes darting to the front window as if expecting to see danger lurking just outside. We need to come up with something solid. Klein isn't going to sit back and let us. Whatever we think we're about to do. Claire stood up, the weight of her uncertainty shifting to determination. We meet Derek at the coffee shop, get whatever intel he has. It's our shot to figure out what Sam got mixed up in. Even if it means walking straight into a trap? Martha questioned, her pulse quickening. That's the risk we take, Claire replied, glancing at each of them. We do this together or not at all. The room was silent, tension hanging heavily in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. One by one they nodded, hearts hardening into resolve. They were pulled together by something stronger than fear. A fierce need to protect one another. As they made plans, Martha's mind was a whirlwind. She thought about Sam, the son she had raised, the bright future he had ahead of him now shadowed by secrets. If Derek had the information they needed, it could mean the difference between life and death. Minutes turned to hours, and as noon approached, they gathered their belongings. A host of anxious glances exchanged like unspoken promises. The coffee shop on 5th was bustling despite the worn wallpaper and mismatched mugs. Martha tightened her grip on her purse, each step closer feeling like a march to the gallows. They spotted Derek seated in a corner booth, his eyes scanning the crowd like a hawk. Martha's stomach twisted, a mix of fear and anger coiling tightly. As they approached, he held up a hand, signaling them to take a seat. You came, he said, his tone inscrutable. Let us get to it, Claire urged, a fierce edge in her voice. What do you know? Derek leaned back, his expression shifting to that of a man who had made a calculated decision. What I'm about to tell you could change everything. Sam is deeper into this than you realize. Martha inhaled sharply. The weight of his words settled over the table like a blanket suffocating all hope. What are you talking about? Jake said sharply, tension crackling in the air. But before Derek could explain, a sudden commotion erupted at the entrance. A group of men burst in, one of them unmistakably familiar. It was Klein. Martha's heart sank. The eyes of the predator were locked on them. She had thought they were ready for anything, but in that moment dread surged through her. Now what? Sarah whispered, her face paling. Stay calm, Derek instructed, but the urgency in his voice betrayed him. Klein moved closer, his expression menacing, the air around them thick with the palpable threat. Martha's instincts kicked in, her mind racing. This was not just a matter of secrets anymore. It was a matter of survival. Could they even make it out of here alive? Tension swelled as she sensed the threads of their fates tightening. The moment of confrontation loomed, and Martha wondered if she was ready to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The air grew heavy with anticipation, a storm brewing in the tiny cafe as Klein approached. Each footstep echoed in Martha's mind like a ticking clock, racing against the inevitable. Would they find a way out? Would they survive the truth? Look what the cat dragged in, Klein sneered, his eyes glimmering with malice. He stopped mere feet away, surveying the table with amusement. Playing detective, are we? Derek's jaw clenched. Tension radiated off him like a live wire. This isn't your business, Klein. Oh, but every part of this is my business, Klein spat, leaning in closer, showcasing the depth of his ruthlessness. Especially when it involves my investments in my people. A jolt of fear surged through Martha, but determination ignited within her. They couldn't let Klein overpower them, not now, not ever. She met Klein's stare, her heart pounding but her voice steady. You took my son's future and twisted it into something dark. We're here to uncover the truth. Klein's smile faded as unease flashed in his eyes. And what truth is that, Martha? That your precious Sam wasn't what you thought? What do you mean by that? Jake shot back, fists clenching in frustration. Enough games. Klein's tone grew serious, the air around them turning electric with tension. Those documents contain more than just family secrets. They hold liabilities. The cafe's atmosphere shifted as patrons glanced over, some taking a step back from the brewing conflict. Derek stood up suddenly, pushing back against his chair. If you value your life, Klein, back off. You're playing with fire. Fire? Klein chuckled darkly. You have no idea what kind of fire you're playing with. Martha's pulse thundered in her ears. Was this it? Were their lives hanging by a thread, poised at Klein's whims? But she couldn't crumble now. What are you afraid of? She pressed on, searching for a thread of leverage. What's in those documents that you don't want us to find? With a sudden snarl, Klein leaned forward, the crowd shrinking back visibly. Don't act noble, Martha. You don't know what I'm capable of. Derek stepped closer, steel in his gaze. We understand more than you think. Sam was working for something significant. But we won't let you sweep it under the rug. Klein's expression turned icy, like a winter morning. You don't even know what side you're on. Martha felt the heat of her resolve burn brighter. We know enough. Sam was trying to protect us. You think we'll let you intimidate us into silence? With a rush, Klein lunged toward Martha, eyes flashing with rage. You should have left this alone, he growled. But before he could grab her, Jake intervened, shoving Klein back with a fierce shove. The commotion intensified as murmurs filled the cafe, patrons pulling their phones from pockets. A crashing wave of adrenaline surged through Martha. We won't back down, she yelled, her voice rising above the chaos. We should be fighting for our families together. And just like that, as if struck by an unseen force, the spirit of defiance rolled through the group. Other patrons, fueled by shared purpose, joined in, rallying behind Martha. They couldn't let fear control them. The fight was bigger than Klein, it was about reclaiming their lives. Realizing he was losing his grip on the situation, Klein suddenly turned and bolted for the exit, his men scrambling behind him. Derek lunged, shouting after him, You can't run from this, your empire is built on lies. The cafe erupted into a mixture of astonished gasps and rising cheers from newfound allies. As Klein disappeared through the door, clarity struck Martha. They had crossed a threshold. What they once kept hidden in the shadows was now out in the open. Let us go, Derek urged, pulling the group away from the shocked crowd. The four of them rushed to Claire's car, adrenaline pulsing as they hopped in. What now? Sarah whispered, her heart still racing. Now we get those documents, Derek replied, determination etched into every feature. We'll unwrap this mess, expose Klein, and show him that family means fighting for one another. And as they drove through the winding streets, a shared weight lifted slightly. Each knew this was just the beginning. They had forged a bond in fire, and together, they would rise above the ashes of deception. I have your back, Martha said resolutely, glancing at each fierce face present. No more secrets. Together we'll face whatever comes next. As the sun began to rise, illuminating their path forward, Martha felt a fierce hope spark within her, a beacon against the darkness. They would reclaim their lives together. And with that promise they charged ahead, ready to unveil the truth and stand united against whatever threats dared to come their way. Now it's your time to get involved. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive chapter of this amazing story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and keep our community growing. Your support matters. Comment below on your emotions and reactions to this ending. What did it mean to you? And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Let us keep the momentum going. Don't wait not even one more second. Join the family.